What is the most critical of the 7-year cycles? It's the first one. Our first 7 years, 0 to 7, is where our basic personality is molded. At that time, we're just pure feelings, picking up on the good, the bad, and the ugly. So how does this happen? Well, stay tuned, and I'm going to share that with you. Hello, I'm Melissa, and I'm the founder of the Spirit Guided Life School. I'm here to help you trust your inner guidance and develop your spiritual abilities so you can truly live the life purpose that you're here for with abundance, joy, and fulfillment. If you enjoy these spiritual topics, please hit that subscribe button. Be a part of this amazing community of like-minded spiritual seekers. So, our life moves in 7-year cycles. Science tells us that cells in our physical body are replaced every 7 years. And at that same time, we also go through a spiritual renewal every 7 years. I have previously posted on this YouTube channel a video where I shared all about all of the 7-year cycles. So if you want to watch that one first before this one, I do recommend that. I've linked it right here for you. Go ahead and view that, and then come on back and learn about the first 7-year cycle. So our first 7 years is called the cycle of feelings, because truly as a soul, you have your feeling nature, which often we call our intuition, and then we have our intellectual nature, the thinking, analyzing mind. Children up until about 7 aren't really operating from their intellect. The brain also hasn't fully formed. So you see what science tells us about brain development, and it confirms these more spiritual ideas. But I'm today going to be talking more from the spiritual point of view and bringing in energy, and that's not what you're going to hear from a scientist, okay? But again, science does confirm a lot of these ideas, just using different language. So during the first 7-year cycle, as a soul, you're pure feelings. So as a feeling, intuitive being, you are absorbing all the energies from the world around you. So this is mainly from our close environment, right? Our parents, other significant adults in your life, so maybe teachers or aunts and uncles, grandparents, from the environment, just from what you were exposed to in your neighborhood and in your life. You're learning and you're absorbing it all. If there are any blockage areas that you are experiencing, it was almost always formed in the first 7 years of life. And those ideas and concepts about life have become subconscious. You were operating from the viewpoint of the things that you learned in your first 7 years. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's true. You know, our patterns are formed in the first 7 years. The good news is they can be changed. And a lot of what you did learn and absorb in the first 7 years might be really positive. They might be working for you. But as you grow on your spiritual journey, you'll start to see that some of the patterns that you have are actually not working for you. Maybe you learned a particular way of approaching life or behaving in order to survive in that early environment, or it was a coping mechanism. But what tends to happen is because that then forms as a pattern, and if you want to see the scientific point of view, it forms in your brain as the way you need to operate. As an adult and in later years, we're still operating from that coping mechanism, from that behavior pattern, even though the environment is completely different now. So the way that you were parented has a strong impact on the personality and who you are today. So for example, if one of your parents had a tendency to yell or fly off the handle when you least expected it, you were in that environment as a little child. You have no choice. You can't just decide that you're going to live with the neighbors. You're there, you're stuck with it. So you have to learn to cope with that environment. And so maybe in this example, a child develops a pattern of holding things in, being meek and quiet, and trying to be really good all the time in order to avoid the parents' outbursts. So this pattern then becomes ingrained in my personality. And then as an adult, that person can be operating that way at work, in their marriage, right, with friends. They're still acting meek and trying to be good and trying to not make waves. Now, that behavior pattern may have actually been really necessary. in the first 7 years, but it becomes ingrained and you're still acting that way even when the environment doesn't call for it. And that's the kind of patterns that you want to start to uncover as you're learning about your first 7 years. You start to say, okay, I know why I have this fear or this block or this pattern, but actually it's not relevant anymore. It doesn't serve me in a positive way. So what am I going to replace it with? Another note too is that if you have a child who is in the first 7 years, the key to the cycle really is to allow children to be in their feelings. Children learn by play. They learn by experiencing. They learn by trying things on, role playing, being in their imagination. So as much as possible, allow them to do that. Just allow them to be free. Of course, we have to keep our children safe, and we have to instill some morals into them and some ways to navigate society. Don't run across the road, those things. Of course, that is important. And as much as possible within the parameters that keep that child safe, allow them to be free. Right? That's why I loved taking my son to the Wayshower's College Conference Center in Iowa every summer. He's gone there every summer since he was 18 months old, because that's on a farm environment. It's safe, right? He's not going to be hit by a car, and he could roam freely and he could truly be himself there. He actually benefited from having some space from me and his father in that environment, to not have us hovering over him so much, and to really just be free and run and play. And he's naturally a leader. So with the other children at the conference center, he would, have the leadership role and make up games with the kids and things like that. And you start to see, when you give those little children a little bit more freedom and a little bit more space, you see their unique soul blueprint coming through, their authentic self and what they're here to do, their purpose. You've given them the freedom to allow that to be fostered. Another note too is that if you are a parent, please know that there's really no way to avoid screwing our kids up. You mustn't feel guilty for your blocks being passed on to them, or try to be perfect so you never mess up your kids, because they're going to be messed up regardless. That's what planet Earth is all about. Life is not always fun and a piece of cake all the time. And it's actually more beneficial not to protect them from that, but to allow them to have the growth so that they know how to navigate it as an adult when they get older. When they encounter different personality types later in life, they will be more equipped to deal with it if they've been exposed to different things. And really, that is their contract with you, to learn from the good, the bad, and the ugly. They are learning from your positive traits. Please don't discount that. But they are learning from your blocks too, funnily enough. They are learning and growing from the experience of working with you. So the key for me as a parent, and what the advice I have for you, is to do your best to heal yourself, to learn about how to help a child be more authentically themselves as much as possible, but by also setting boundaries when needed. It's a delicate balance. I do not have the blueprint on parenting, but this is what I have learned from my own experience. So the key to all of this, whether we're talking about your children or yourself in your childhood, is that there's a difference between true feelings and emotions. Emotions are the ways we've been taught to feel, the patterns that we learn from others and from the environment. And most of the time, as much as possible, we want to be more in our true feelings as a soul. This is that innate part of you, what you came in with from this lifetime. You as a truly authentic soul that's uncolored by outer influences. So the more of the time you can really be your true authentic self, the more happy and positive and successful you are going to be. Remember, the more that you heal yourself, the more you are healing the people around you, including your loved ones and your own children. So that's the best example that you can be to them, is to be on your own spiritual growth journey and do the best you know how. So if this idea of healing your patterns from the first 7 years intrigues you, there is a consultation available that I'm certified to do by the Wayshower's College, and it's called the Blockage Discovery Profile. This is a 1-hour session that helps you to go through the pattern that has influenced you from the first 7 years, how you've experienced it. So you can take that out from the subconscious, being unknown, and truly see what the pattern is. Then when you see it, you can heal it, and we'll work on replacing it with a new positive solution. So you can see the information about that at my consultations page, which is communicatewithangels.com/consultation. There is one prerequisite you need to do before that session, but it's pretty simple. If you have any questions, you can always email support@communicatewithangels.com. So again, if you haven't watched my original video about the 7-year cycles that lays out all the different cycles of our life, I've linked that one right here for you to go ahead and watch next. I'll see you on over there.